Imagine, just for a second, being completely cut off from the world above. Above you is the crushing weight of the ocean, literally pressure equivalent to a skyscraper resting right on your shoulders. And all around you? Nothing but total darkness and deadly pressure. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're diving into one of the most extreme, unnatural, and unforgiving environments on planet Earth, the military submarine. We're going to unpack the sheer willpower, the fascinating chemistry, and the rigorous discipline it takes to keep over 100 human beings alive for months at a time inside what is, essentially, a sealed metal tube. Now, let's jump right into this with a story that really proves just how unimaginably high the stakes are down there. Get this. During World War II, the German submarine U-1206 was hiding out in the North Sea. The captain used the sanitary facilities, but he made a seemingly tiny mistake in the incredibly complex valve sequence. Well, seawater rushed him under immense pressure and completely flooded the battery compartment. That salt water reacted with the battery acid, generating a massive cloud of deadly chlorine gas. The crew had to surface immediately, where they were instantly destroyed by enemy forces. Down in the abyss, you see, the margin for error isn't just small, it's absolutely zero. And when we say a submarine is cramped, I mean, it literally defies human biology. To put that into perspective, a standard prison cell gives an inmate about 80 square feet of living space. But aboard a typical Navy submarine, a crew member's total living footprint shrinks to just 20 square feet. That's it. True privacy is completely non-existent. You are constantly brushing shoulders in a narrow steel corridor. Which brings us to the ultimate question, doesn't it? If you're packed into a space tighter than a prison cell, surrounded by an ocean that actively wants to crush you, how do 130 people survive for up to 8 months inside a sealed steel coffin? To figure that out, we have to look at the hierarchy of submarine survival. Let's start with Section 1, engineering every single breath, the chemical battle against suffocation. Because before we even think about food or sleep, we've got to talk about the most fragile, immediate need of human biology. 78,000. That is the number of liters of oxygen a 13-person crew needs every single day just to stay alive. And remember, there are no windows to crack open here. Every single molecule of breathable air has to be artificially manufactured by the ship's machinery. So, how do they manufacture 78,000 liters? They use a really delicate chemical dance called electrolysis. Step 1. They can't just use regular seawater, or the electricity would create that deadly chlorine gas we talked about. So they use reverse osmosis to strip away the salt, making pure water. Step 2. They run an electrical current from their nuclear reactor right through that pure water, violently splitting the H2O molecules apart. And step 3, the hydrogen is pumped safely outside into the ocean, and that sweet, fresh oxygen is pumped directly into the crew cabin. They are literally tearing the ocean apart just to take a breath. But wait, what if that multi-billion-dollar nuclear system breaks down? Well, you use candles. Yeah, really. But not your normal living room candles. These emergency backups are made of sodium chlorate, barium peroxide, and iron powder. When you light them, the iron burns at this incredibly high temperature, triggering a reaction in the sodium chlorate that creates a self-oxidizing fire. It's thermal decomposition that actually releases way more oxygen than it consumes. I know, it sounds totally crazy to light a fire in a sealed tube to get oxygen, but it absolutely works. But hey, creating oxygen is only half the battle. Every time those 130 sailors exhale, they're filling the sub with carbon dioxide. If that CO2 concentration creeps up to just 10%, the very air they're breathing becomes poisonous. To survive this invisible threat, the air is constantly being forced through these massive scrubber towers. Inside, a liquid chemical called amine acts like a giant invisible sponge, spraying into the air to physically trap and absorb the carbon dioxide. And if the power goes out, the crew shifts to backup canisters of soda lime or lithium hydroxide. When the toxic air hits those chemicals, the carbon dioxide reacts and literally turns into solid carbonate trash. Breathing down there is this unbroken, high-wire act of chemical engineering. Okay, so now that we can actually breathe, let's move on to Section 2, drops, rations, and waste, the strict physics of water and food. Because as you'll see, everyday bodily functions turn into massive logistical nightmares when you're hundreds of meters deep. Think about this. You are surrounded by billions of gallons of ocean water, yet your daily life is governed by the number 60. You get exactly 60 seconds of running water for your shower. Fresh water takes a massive amount of energy to produce, so it is strictly rationed for drinking, cooking, and cooling the machines. Personal hygiene is, well, a very fast and furious affair. And then there's the food situation. Supplying a sub means loading in roughly 20,000 kilograms of rations. Space is at such a premium that normal pantries just don't exist. Cans are crammed into literally every crevice, even right under the floorboards the crew walks on. Down in the galley, cooks are working with zero open flames to prevent fires, basically relying entirely on electric skillets. And this is crucial. Food isn't just physical fuel here. Navies know it's a vital psychological anchor. Things like steak nights and having a dedicated ice cream machine, those are quite literally deployed as weapons to stave off monotony and depression. But, of course, what goes in must come out. And pumping waste outside the submarine is genuinely terrifying. Outside that hole, thousands of tons of ocean water are pressing inward. To force waste out, powerful pumps have to completely overwhelm the pressure of the ocean. The crew has to execute this flawless sequence. Open the inside valve, close it tight, then open the outside valve. As that U-1206 story taught us earlier, if you mess up that sequence, the ocean blasts inward. A routine trip to the bathroom carries the exact same risk as a depth charge. Which leads us right into Section 3, hot bunks and mid-rats, redefining time, space, and rest. The environment down here doesn't just dictate what you eat and breathe, it totally rewrites how you experience time itself. When it's finally time to catch some sleep, a lot of sailors face the reality of hot racking. See, there are often more crew members than there are actual beds. These bunks are incredibly tight, coffin-like spaces stacked right on top of each other. So when your shift ends, you crawl into a bed that was just vacated seconds ago by another sailor. The mattress quite literally never gets cold. It is the ultimate sacrifice of your personal space. Oh, and that sleep? It definitely doesn't happen on a normal schedule. The natural 24-hour day is totally thrown out the window. Submarines operate on this grueling, unnatural 18-hour cycle. You spend 6 hours on watch, 6 hours doing maintenance or having some free time, and 6 hours sleeping. And you just repeat that loop endlessly. The machinery has to run around the clock, so the humans simply have to mold themselves to the machine's rhythm. Because you never see the sun, your brain's natural circadian rhythm completely breaks down. To fix that, the control rooms actually manufacture a fake sleep cycle using light. Bright white light is used to simulate daytime and keep everyone hyper alert. But when it's time to simulate night, the whole cabin is bathed in this intense, eerie red light. That specific wavelength literally hacks the human brain, tricking it into releasing melatonin so the crew can actually wind down. To sustain this crazy, demanding cycle, submarines introduce something called mid-rats. It's basically a mandatory fourth meal served after midnight. Operating all this highly sensitive equipment in such a high-pressure, sealed environment puts immense stress on the human body, causing sailors to burn way more calories than average. Mid-rats gives them that vital physical fuel to stay sharp when their bodies naturally just want to shut down. All right, now we enter the final and arguably most dangerous phase of our explainer. Section 4, surviving the psychological abyss. When the machinery works perfectly, but the mind starts to degrade. You have to understand the isolation is absolute. Standard radio waves just bounce right off salt water. Trying to use them is literally like trying to shine a flashlight through a solid brick wall. So to talk to a submerged sub, navies have to use ELF, or extremely low-frequency radio waves, operating between 76 and 82 hertz. And the physics required to reach them? Mind-blowing. A standard radio antenna is small and fast, right? But the Russian ZEVS ELF system, for example, practically has to use the Earth itself as an antenna, creating a wavelength over 3,600 kilometers long. And the data speed? Oh man. Old-school dial-up internet would feel like lightning compared to this. It transmits at just a few characters per minute. And it's strictly one way. That means a sailor might receive a heavily vetted 120-word message from their family maybe once a week. They are profoundly, totally disconnected from the outside world. And that extreme isolation breeds mental decay. Imagine the compounding weight of it all. Months with zero natural sunlight. The exact same lingering smells of machine oil and amine spray. The exact same gray walls every single day. You can't just walk away from a coworker you dislike. Conflict has to be completely suppressed because an argument down there can be deadly. Claustrophobia and anxiety creep in. Surviving it requires immense, almost superhuman mental discipline and rigid compartmentalization. Because if that discipline cracks, the consequences are fatal. A degraded mind making an error under pressure yields catastrophic results. Take October 1944. The USS Tang fired a torpedo, but because of a slight miscalculation in the launch sequence, the weapon's trajectory failed. It ran in a circular loop, coming right back to strike and completely destroy the very submarine that fired it. It's a chilling reminder that your own weaponry, your own machinery, and yes, your own mind are constant threats. Submariners are basically fighting a continuous three-front war: the enemy, the ocean, and their own psychology, which leaves us with this final provocative thought. We can engineer nuclear reactors to run for decades. We can split pure water to breathe forever. But if the ultimate threat isn't the crushing ocean or the enemy above, but the limits of the human mind itself, how much longer can human psychology truly endure the silent abyss? Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. Really think about that next time you step outside and take a deep breath of fresh, open air.